cowboy. He's a horseshoer. He's a poet. He's head mule packer at the Grand Canyon, or at least he was until he retired. It's estimated that he has put over 40,000 miles into and out of the Grand Canyon. Can you imagine that? How many people have ever been down to the Phantom Ranch? How many people have been to the Grand Canyon? How many people have been to McDonald's? No. Well, the Phantom Ranch is located at the very bottom of the Grand Canyon. And for Ross Knox, let's hear it.
Man, Gary's great on that harmonica, isn't he? I got out my Crayolas and put a mark down beside another person I don't ever want to follow again. I traded for this horse one time. He wouldn't win no beauty prize. Just a big, stout, long-geared blue roan. Not bad for weight or size. I had to make some tough old circles, and that trader guaranteed this horse would show me lots of country. Not need much rest nor feed. He says, now this ain't no kid's horse, but he'll pack you up the creek. He will hemp up on some occasions, and he has been known to kick. The fact is, I couldn't trade him to just anyone without feeling some remorse, but if you're sure enough cowpuncher, mister, this is your kind of horse. I stepped on that horse next morning. He began to buck and bawl. That trader may not have lied none, but he dang sure hadn't told it all. We sure tore up the country where he threw that equine fit, and I was running out of handholds by the time he finally quit. And that just sort of set the pattern. Nothing ever seemed to change. Although I showed him lots of country every corner of that range, but every time I'd ride him, he'd keep me sitting tight. I knew I'd go for at least 3 bronc rides before he packed me home that night. Which would have been all right on most of the horses that I knowed, but this roan horse had my number. I could just barely get him rode. But the thing that really scared me most, put a damper on my pride, is it appears he's learning how to buck faster than I'm learning how to ride. I rode into camp one evening. It was getting pretty late. I seen this gray horse in the corral in a saddle by the gate. I looked that gray horse over, and man, I sure liked what I seen. Then this lad showed up around the barn, looked to be about 16. He said he'd lamed that gray horse coming down off Granite Grade. He wondered if perhaps I had a horse I'd like to trade. Now, when a feller's trading horses, most anything is fair, so I traded him my blue roan for that gray horse then and there. But my conscience got to hurting when I thought of what I did to trade a fly-blowed dink like that off on some little snot-nosed kid. So next morning after breakfast, I said, now listen, lad, to tell the truth, that trade you made last night was bad. That roan horse, he's a tough one. Bad as any that you'll see. He'll kick you, strike you, stampede. He's a sorry SOB. It's all I can do to ride him, and I'll tell it to you straight. I think you'll be mighty lucky just to get him past the gate. Now there's 2 or 3 old horses out there in the saddle bunch that ain't got too much going for them, but I kind of got a hunch that they'll get you where you're going if you just don't crowd them none. But dang, I hate to see you try to ride that blue roan booger, son. He said, well, sir, I said last night I'd make most any kind of trade, and I appreciate you telling me what a big mistake I made, but my daddy always told me, no matter how you feel, even if you take a whipping, well, a deal is still a deal. Now, you say this horse has lots of country. He's not too bad for speed. Well, sir, I'm kind of in a tight spot, and that's exactly what I need. I traded for him fair and square. And dang his blue roan hide, when I pull out of here this morning, that's the horse I'm gonna ride. Well, I watched him cinch his saddle, and he pulled his hat way down. He stepped up in the rigging like he was headed straight for town. Stuck both spurs in his shoulders, got the blue roan hair a-flying, throwed his head back and squalled. Sounded like a mountain lion. Now I've heard all your stories of the bucking horse ballet. I've heard of poetry in motion, but the ride I saw that day complete defied description, though I still can see it plain like it happened in slow motion and was branded on my brain. Well, that roan horse couldn't shake that kid no matter what he tried. All that I can say is by the saints this lad could ride. Now when it was finally over, I thought, I could learn a few things still. I said, son, I apologize. I misjudged your riding skill. He says, shucks, mister, that's all right, as he started on his way. But if you think this horse can buck, don't put your saddle on that gray. Thank you. That poem was written by Sonny Hancock, a good friend of mine that crossed over here a few years ago, and we miss him tremendously. Belinda, are you out there anywhere?
I'm out here.
Oh, biographical as anything I ever wrote. I left home. I quit school and left home when I was 16. And went to Nevada because that's where the big ranches were, and that's all I cared about. The spring I was 17, I went to Wyoming, to Yellowstone, because I'd heard a lot about that country. I wanted to look at it. So I went to work for a pack outfit, first time I'd ever packed. And we went into the backcountry for 12 days at a time with 25 head of pack mules, 5 packers. And it was, when you're 17, tell you what, that's pretty cool. But we were camped. We'd start up the South Fork of the Buffalo River. We'd follow that till we hit the South Fork of the Yellowstone, and we'd follow that till we hit the Continental Divide. There's a creek on the top of the divide called Two Ocean Creek. That creek splits. One goes east, one goes west. They call one Pacific Creek, the other Atlantic Creek. We camped in that split, and I was laying in my bedroll there one night, and I'm watching the northern lights, the brightest they've been in 82 years. And I've got about 60 head of livestock grazing behind me, and I thought I was the luckiest kid that ever lived. And here a few years back, I was thinking about all that and about my life in general, and I sat down and I wrote this poem. It's called Memories. Belinda, this is for you. Well, you sit in your chair and you stare at the wall and you relive the days when you rode proud and tall, while making the big drives, rope and brand, and just practice the art of making a hand. Well, you was just a kid when you left your home and headed north to the Yellowstone, to those high mountain meadows in a pristine land that's yet to be ruined by human hand. And it still brings a smile when you relive the ride on a moonlit night across the Great Divide, with the northern lights sparkling like diamonds and jewels, just you and God and a string of mules. You made your camp up on Two Ocean Creek, and you let the sound of the water sing you to sleep. And those high desert ranches on the Nevada range, where for the last 100 years, there's been damn little change. At night, round the chuck wagon, you wish folks could see that you and the Mustang, the only thing left that's free. From a hilltop, you'd stare at the vast expanses. Seemed you could trot forever and hit no fences, with no time clock or desk. Each day we'd thank God that we're not a slave to the urban mob. Yes, you'd chosen to ride a trail seldom traveled, little knowing how fast it can all come unraveled. Remember the winter of '73 was the beginning of the end for men like me. You were on top of the world, and then overnight the cow market dropped clear out of sight. And it just kept getting worse with each passing day, till a cow wasn't hardly worth giving away. You'd spent your whole life keeping the tradition alive. Now each day's a constant battle to just try and survive. But though the cost of grass keeps going up and cow prices keep falling, being a cowboy is still the highest calling. Well, now you're a prisoner to a chair that has wheels, But you still remember the way that it feels to step across a good horse, a custom-made saddle, and the thrill of running mustangs or tying down wild cattle. For the last 40 years, you've had the same loving wife. There's not much you'd change about your life. But when the memories come calling, you still can't help but pray, Lord, please make me a cowboy again for a day.